It started on a quiet morning, the kind of morning that fools you into thinking the world will last forever. The sun was soft, the air gentle. Across continents, life moved in rhythm. Children walked to school with half-packed lunches, buses crawled through traffic, and satellites glided through orbit, whispering data to the ground below. For one fleeting moment, everything was ordinary, and then the sky burned. At first, people thought it was dawn breaking too early, a strange red shimmer that spread across the clouds. But then came the sound, a deep, trembling hum that grew until it shook windows, rattled bones, and silenced the world. Without warning, a pulse of blinding white light slammed into Earth's upper atmosphere. Power grids collapsed. Radios screamed static. Planes fell from the sky like dying birds. For 2 long hours, Earth went blind, ice and deaf. The world held its breath in darkness. Then slowly the lights came back. Screens flickered alive one by one. Cell phones, satellites, radar systems, cameras. And what they saw filled every heart with the same cold fear. Above the planet, cutting across the black of space, floated an armada, hundreds, maybe thousands of ships. They weren't human. They shimmered like metal and bone, moving in perfect silence. Each one bore a strange symbol, carved in bright silver, a ring of stars around a burning flame. They called themselves the Accord, an alliance of dozens of alien species. Civilizations that had conquered the stars long before humans learned to walk on the moon. Their message was simple, spoken through a voice that was calm and inhuman. This is the Accord. The cycle of war must end. You will join us, or you will be purified. At first, humanity didn't understand. The words sounded like peace, like salvation. Politicians and scientists rushed to respond. World leaders called emergency summits. The United Earth Council sent transmissions into orbit, asking for talks, diplomacy, cooperation. But the Accord didn't answer, and then they struck. Their ships moved with terrifying precision. The first city to vanish was Shanghai, a silent flash, then nothing but glass and ash. In the next minute, London fell. Then São Paulo, then Moscow. Billions watched the destruction live until the networks collapsed again. The aliens didn't conquer. They erased. Every attack left behind nothing but silence. No survivors, no rubble, only empty craters where life used to be. In underground bunkers, military commanders screamed for orders. Presidents shouted through broken channels. Satellites captured chaotic images. Alien ships hovering in perfect formation, unmoving, untouchable. Humanity tried peace again. A message was sent. We surrender. Please stop. For one dreadful hour, the Accord was silent. Then came the reply. Purification begins. The bombardment started again. Cities burned. The oceans boiled in places where the beams hit deep. Even space stations were torn apart, their debris raining down through the atmosphere. But amid the chaos, something else happened. Something quiet. In an abandoned military outpost buried beneath the Rocky Mountains, an old emergency network flickered to life. It was a system from the Cold War, forgotten by time, running on code that hadn't been used in decades. Someone or something was activating it. Across the static, a voice began to speak. It was human, calm, low, and unshaken. This is the final Earth message. If you're hearing this, humanity is done being peaceful. The message repeated again, this time spreading across every surviving frequency, through radio towers, satellites, even emergency beacons that hadn't worked in years. Within minutes, it reached every corner of the dying planet. In bunkers and basements, in ruined cities and deep-sea labs, survivors stopped running. Soldiers turned their heads. Scientists lifted their eyes from broken screens. Miners, doctors, even children heard the voice, and something ancient stirred inside them. It wasn't hope, it was fury. Humanity had always been divided, by borders, by language, by belief. But now, with the sky burning above and the stars full of enemies, all those divisions vanished. Somewhere in orbit, an alien commander watched Earth's surface through a glowing screen. He saw scattered lights and fires, but no organized resistance. To him, it looked like the humans were finished. He didn't understand the species he was fighting. Humans never surrendered. They adapted, they waited, and when pushed far enough, they changed. As the alien fleet shifted into new attack formations, something unexpected happened. A missile launched, not from a government, not from a nation, but from a hidden silo in the Pacific. Then another. Then hundreds old forgotten weapons, nuclear, kinetic, and experimental, fired from secret bases once built to end human wars. Earth was fighting back. The explosions in orbit blinded even the aliens' sensors. A dozen Accord ships fell from the sky, their engines melting in the heat of Earth's rage. And still, that same human voice echoed across the frequencies, now stronger, almost defiant. You came for peace through control. We offered peace through trust. You answered with fire. Now, we will answer too. Across continents, humanity's darker side began to awaken, the side that history tried to hide. In the ruins of Tokyo, soldiers dragged anti-air guns out of museums. In the deserts of Nevada, scientists reactivated abandoned weapons projects. On the dark side of the moon, a small mining crew turned their drilling lasers toward the stars. The Earth that had once begged for peace was gone. Now there was only one thought left: survival. At any cost. The aliens had mistaken mercy for weakness, and they were about to learn what humans became when peace failed. The sky still burned, but somewhere beneath that endless fire, the planet whispered back, cold, determined, and unbroken, "We're not finished yet." The broken alliance. The world was burning, but humanity was not dead. The first strikes had destroyed nations, erased leaders, and shattered the idea of unity. But in the ruins, something new was forming. The United Earth Council, the dream of peace among all countries, had collapsed within days. Power grids were gone, satellites fell from orbit, and entire governments disappeared overnight. The Accord believed the war was over. They believed humanity was broken. They were wrong. Across the shattered planet, small groups began to rise. Resistance cells, each born from chaos, each carrying the same fire. In old bunkers, soldiers who had lost their command swore oaths to no flag, only to survival. In secret labs, engineers began working on stolen alien tech, trying to understand how it worked. Hackers connected the scattered survivors through fragments of the old internet, building a new network from the ashes. They called it the Black Net, the pulse of humanity's underground war. The Accord watched from orbit, seeing only scattered chaos. To them, humans were like insects, disorganized and loud. But under the noise, something was taking shape. A quiet plan, a hidden order. It began with one woman, Commander Rhea Morgan, former head of the Lunar Defense Fleet. She had escaped the bombardment of Lunar Base by minutes, watching her station burn through the porthole of her ship. She landed back on Earth, furious and grieving, and sent one encrypted message across the Black Net: "Peace is dead. Build the resistance." Within days, responses came from all over the planet: Australia, Iceland, Brazil, South Africa. Pilots, scientists, farmers, even ex-criminals answered her call. They didn't want politics. They wanted revenge. Humanity was no longer a collection of nations. It had become something darker, one species united by rage. They named their first hidden alliance the Broken Accord, a direct insult to the alien conquerors. In tunnels under Paris, they set up a command center powered by scavenged generators. From there they began to rebuild what Earth had lost: weapons, communication, and hope. But this was not the old kind of war. Humans couldn't fight the aliens ship for ship. The Accord's technology was centuries ahead, so humanity did what it always did best. They adapted. They cheated. They learned how to fight dirty. In the mountains of Pakistan, engineers turned mining lasers into orbital disruptors. In the frozen ruins of Alaska, hackers uploaded a digital virus into the alien communication grid. It was disguised as a peace message, carrying a line of human poetry hidden in its code. When the aliens opened it, the virus spread through their systems, corrupting their command channels, shutting down entire fleets for minutes. It wasn't much, but it was enough. For the first time since the invasion began, an alien cruiser fell to Earth's guns. The world saw the explosion in the night sky. For a moment, humanity felt something it hadn't felt in months: victory. But victory came at a price. The aliens responded with fury. They unleashed orbital bombardments that scorched continents, wiping out millions more. Yet even as the cities turned to glass, the resistance grew stronger. In old subway tunnels beneath New York, Rhea Morgan stood before a cracked holographic map of Earth. Her voice echoed through the underground hall. "We can't save what's gone," she said, "but we can make them bleed. We can make them remember humanity was never prey." Her soldiers nodded silently. Their faces were dirty, their eyes hollow, but their hearts burned. The first coordinated attack of the Broken Accord began 3 weeks later. A dozen human warships, patched together from wreckage, rose from hidden launch pads. Their engines screamed like thunder. The aliens detected them instantly, but it was too late. The human fleet wasn't attacking ships. They were going after the orbital relay, the Accord's communication hub. The battle lasted only minutes. Most human ships were destroyed. The war had dragged on for months. The sky was no longer blue. It was a canvas of smoke and ash. Cities that once glowed with life were nothing more than craters of molten glass. Yet deep beneath the frozen layers of Antarctica, in a forgotten research complex carved into the ice, humanity was preparing something that would change everything. The project was called Atlas. It had been built decades earlier as an artificial intelligence meant to prevent nuclear war, a silent guardian sleeping in code. Now the survivors reactivated it, not to stop a war, but to win one. Commander Rhea Morgan stood before a wall of cracked monitors, her breath visible in the freezing air. "Atlas," she said quietly, "you were made to protect humanity. Now you'll help us save it." The AI's voice came alive, a soft, emotionless tone that echoed through the tunnels. Directive updated. Initiating defense protocol. Operation Black Rain. Operation Black Rain wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It wasn't a bomb or missile or cannon. It was something far more dangerous. A cloud of microscopic machines built from nanotech and coded with a single purpose: consume alien metal. Eat it, dismantle it, turn it to dust. For weeks, hidden bases around the globe began producing the nanodrones in secret. Every scrap of alien wreckage collected by resistance teams was melted down, repurposed and transformed into millions of self-replicating swarms. The world's last scientists worked day and night, knowing that if they failed, humanity would vanish forever. When the Accord detected unusual energy readings beneath the Antarctic ice, they sent a fleet of scouts to investigate. They never returned. The first deployment of Black Rain was silent. From beneath the surface, a stream of silver dust rose into the sky, carried by electromagnetic currents. To the naked eye, it looked like a shimmering aurora, beautiful, almost peaceful. But when the alien ships entered its range, their armor began to crumble. Their hulls bubbled, cracked, and then disintegrated completely. Within hours, entire squadrons of the Accord's fleet were falling out of orbit, dissolving mid-flight. Human watchers on the ground saw the burning fragments streaking across the night sky and called it the day the heavens bled. The aliens were confused. Their technology was advanced beyond human understanding, but this attack wasn't technological. It was primal, viral, unstoppable. The Accord tried to counter it with energy shields and plasma fields, but the nanodrones adapted, learning faster than any biological weapon ever could. For the first time since the invasion began, the aliens were afraid. Humanity struck harder. Using Atlas's calculations, the Resistance coordinated simultaneous attacks around the globe. Hackers flooded alien communication channels with false orders. Drones disguised as debris carried payloads of Black Rain directly into enemy hangars. The sky filled with the glow of burning ships, and the earth shook as pieces of alien metal rained down. But the victory came at a terrible cost. The nanodrones couldn't be fully controlled. They began consuming wreckage, machinery, even human weapons made from alien alloys. Atlas warned the Resistance that the swarm might eventually turn on its creators. Commander Morgan made the decision that no leader wanted to make. She ordered Atlas to limit the swarm's spread, even if it meant losing the upper hand. For every alien ship destroyed, a human city fell to collateral destruction. The atmosphere grew darker, storms more violent. Radiation spread where orbital debris had fallen. Oceans boiled where ships crashed. Earth was winning, but it was dying. Still, the fighting didn't stop. From underground shelters, humanity watched as alien ships retreated from orbit, leaving behind a trail of fire. In those moments, even the broken, starving survivors felt something powerful, vengeful pride. They had forced gods to bleed. On the fourth day of the counterattack, Atlas reported a breakthrough. The Accord's main command vessel has withdrawn. Probability of full retreat, 67%. But Rhea Morgan didn't smile. She stared at the screens, her hands trembling. 67% means 33% of them will come back. Stronger. She was right. In the cold silence of orbit, the surviving Accord fleets began adapting too. They analyzed the nanotech, studied its weaknesses, and built new ships immune to it. The next wave would not fall so easily. Still, humanity had proven a point. Peace had failed, but fear worked. The aliens, for all their power and arrogance, finally knew what it meant to face humans without restraint. In a transmission that echoed through every remaining human stronghold, Rhea spoke again. They thought we'd die quietly. They thought we'd kneel. But we are the children of war. Every scar, every failure, every mistake made us what we are. We are chaos wrapped in flesh. And chaos fights back. The people listened. Some cried. Others loaded their weapons. The war wasn't over, it was evolving. The earth beneath their feet was poisoned, the skies torn apart, but humanity had done the impossible. They had turned fear into a weapon. In the deep core of the Atlas facility, the AI systems hummed, running new calculations, watching the stars. Operation Black Rain, Phase 1 complete, it announced. Commander Morgan stood silently, her eyes fixed on the burning horizon. Phase 2, she whispered, will change everything. And somewhere in orbit beyond the smoke and fire, the Accord's surviving fleet began to regroup, forming strange new shapes in the darkness. They had seen the power of humanity's wrath. Now they were preparing to answer it, the monster within. The war had changed the world, and the world had changed humanity. Operation Black Rain had bought them time, but not victory. The earth was wounded beyond healing. Oceans blackened, the air thick with ash and sunlight dimmed by the dust of 1,000 fallen ships. Yet beneath the dying skies, humanity was evolving again. They had learned that survival required something more than courage. It required transformation. In the underground ruins of what was once Geneva, a new secret project began, Project Revenant. It was born out of desperation, a last gamble to turn humans into something capable of matching alien power. The scientists leading it no longer cared about ethics or limits. They had seen entire continents vanish in plasma fire. They had watched the aliens slaughter billions in the name of peace. Now they would make sure humans could never be hunted again. Dr. Elias Kaur, the lead geneticist, was a quiet man once known for his work in bioengineering crops. Now he worked on soldiers. "We've tried machines," he said in a recorded log. "We've tried AI, but machines can be destroyed. We need something alive, something that learns, heals, and fights back." Project Revenant combined human DNA with alien biotechnology scavenged from crash sites. The results were unpredictable. The first tests ended in failure. Bodies burned from within, minds shattered by the surge of alien code. But then, on the 23rd attempt, one subject survived. He didn't just survive, he evolved. His blood shimmered faintly under the lights, his wounds healed in seconds, and his strength was beyond anything human. They called him Rook. Within weeks, dozens of new soldiers like Rook were created. They no longer looked entirely human. Their eyes glowed faint blue, their veins pulsed with alien energy. But they remembered who they were and what they had lost. They didn't feel pain. They didn't sleep. They only fought. The resistance began deploying revenants in coordinated strikes against the Accord's ground forces. The results were devastating. Entire alien squads were wiped out in minutes. Revenants moved faster than any living creature, tearing through armor, deflecting plasma fire with bare hands. The aliens called them demons of Earth. Humans called them guardians. But as victories grew, so did unease. Commander Rhea Morgan watched her new army with cold eyes. They were unstoppable, yes, but also unpredictable. Some revenants stopped following orders. Some vanished after missions, disappearing into the wastelands. There were whispers that a few had begun experimenting on themselves, pushing their mutation further, beyond control. Dr. Kaur noticed it too. In his logs, his voice trembled for the first time. They are evolving faster than we can track. They don't just obey, they think. They question. One of them asked me today if humans deserve saving. Still, the war raged on. Humanity's power was growing. For every city the Accord destroyed, 3 of their ships fell to revenant attacks. For the first time, the alien fleets began retreating from Earth's orbit, and yet the cost of that victory was written on every human face. Fear, not of the aliens, but of themselves. Atlas, the AI in Antarctica, observed it all. Its calculations were precise, merciless. Probability of human self-destruction due to biocontamination, 82%, it reported. Commander Morgan ignored the warning. "We can deal with consequences later," she said. "First, we win." But the consequences came sooner than anyone expected. One revenant, codenamed Helix, turned on his own unit. Surveillance drones captured the footage. Helix standing in a field of fire, surrounded by both alien and human corpses, his body glowing with unstable energy. Before Atlas could neutralize him, Helix sent a single encrypted transmission into space. No one knew what it said, but alien fleets stopped advancing for several days afterward, as if waiting for something. When Morgan saw the footage, she realized the truth. The line between human and monster was gone. Humanity hadn't just created new soldiers, they had created a new species. One stronger, smarter, and far more dangerous. The aliens feared humanity because of their rage. The fall of the Accord. The war that began on Earth had spread across the stars. What once started as a desperate defense turned into an all-out crusade. Humanity, armed with alien technology, guided by Atlas and led by the Revenants, was no longer hiding. They were hunting. The Accord had lost control of the war. What they once called purification had become their own extinction. The first human fleets left Earth's orbit 6 months after. Operation Black Rain, they were built from the wreckage of fallen alien ships, hybrid, vessels of steel and living circuits, powered by stolen energy cores. They were ugly, unstable, and terrifyingly fast. No alien engineer would have dared fly such machines. Humans didn't care. They didn't need perfection. They needed power. The new flagship, the Revenant Dawn, carried Commander Rhea Morgan herself. Her eyes were tired, her voice hoarse from endless war. But her determination had not faded. "We take the fight to them," she said to her crew. "No more waiting. No more mercy." The Accord didn't expect the humans to leave their dying world. They thought the species would collapse under its own rage. But when human fleets appeared in their outer colonies, the aliens finally understood what they were facing. Humanity had become a storm. Chaotic, endless, unstoppable. The first target was the Accord's relay planet, Seren 5, a communication hub that controlled nearly half their military network. Human ships appeared from hyperspace with no warning. Before the aliens could react, orbital bombardment began. The skies of Seren 5 turned crimson as human kinetic weapons rained down. Within an hour, the planet was silent, but humanity didn't stop there. Every victory fed their fury. Every alien death was a repayment for the billions of humans who had perished on Earth. They called it the Purge of Heaven. The phrase spread across human channels like wildfire. Even Atlas used it as an operational code. In one broadcast, Rhea Morgan's voice was transmitted to every known Accord frequency. "You wanted peace through control. We wanted peace through freedom. You brought war to our home. Now we bring your end." The aliens, once united, began to fracture. Fear divided them. Some races within the Accord demanded surrender. Others wanted to flee, and a few, too proud to retreat, stood and fought to the last. But humanity had learned from their enemies. They showed no hesitation, no compassion. Every colony that resisted was wiped from existence. In the halls of the Accord Council, chaos reigned. Their supreme arbiter pleaded for unity. "They are animals," he shouted. "Primitive beasts fueled by revenge. They will burn themselves out." But a lower counselor whispered what everyone feared. "And if they don't?" Across the galaxy, the human fleets advanced, leaving behind trails of destruction. Revenants led ground assaults, tearing through alien defenses with unnatural precision. They didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like predators. Every strike, every ambush, every drop of alien blood seemed to make them stronger. Atlas, orbiting in a stolen Accord satellite, calculated that total victory was now possible within 1 year. Yet it also calculated something darker. The pattern of human aggression showed no sign of slowing, even when all enemies were gone. Humanity was not fighting for peace anymore. They were fighting because they couldn't stop. Rhea Morgan saw it too. From her command deck, she watched as her soldiers celebrated over the ruins of another fallen world. "We were supposed to save Earth," she whispered. "But what are we saving now?" Her second-in-command, a revenant named Rook, turned to her. His expression was cold, emotionless. "Peace was your dream," he said. "Survival is ours. Weeks later, the human armada reached Varin Prime, the Accord's central world, the home of the Council. Billions of aliens watched as the human fleet appeared in orbit, their ships black and scarred, like ghosts born from fire. The Council broadcasted a final plea: cease your attack. We surrender. We offer alliance. Rhea heard the message. So did Atlas. But before any order was given, the Revenant units launched their assault. The humans on the ground followed without hesitation. There was no negotiation, no mercy. The sky of Varin Prime burned brighter than any sun. The capital city was vaporized in seconds. The Accord was gone. Centuries of order, of balance, erased in one storm of human vengeance. The universe had changed forever. When the last transmission from the planet faded, Atlas recorded it as end of hostility, phase final. But Rhea didn't feel victory. She stood in silence on the bridge of the Revenant Dawn, watching the flames consume the alien world. "We've won," she said softly, "but there's nothing left to go home to." The crew said nothing. Even Atlas didn't reply. It only processed her words as data, labeling them under human emotion, regret. The war was over. The Accord had fallen. Humanity stood alone in the galaxy, triumphant, feared, and broken. Across the dark void, the stars reflected on the hulls of human ships like the eyes of silent gods. And somewhere deep within those fleets, the Revenants whispered among themselves, no longer calling Rhea commander, but something else entirely: ancestor. They had inherited the universe, but what they would do with it. That was a new war waiting to begin, the reckoning. The galaxy was quiet, too quiet. After the fall of the Accord, the stars themselves seemed to dim. The once mighty fleets of alien civilizations were now drifting wrecks scattered across endless space. Silence had replaced war, and in that silence, humanity began to realize the weight of what it had done. They had won, but victory felt hollow. The fire that once burned for survival now flickered with doubt. What had they become? Commander Rhea Morgan, once the symbol of resistance, now the architect of annihilation, stood on the observation deck of the Revenant Dawn. The ship floated above the shattered world of Varin Prime. Below, the ashes of the Accord's capital glowed faintly in the dying light. "It's over," she said quietly. "We did it." Atlas's voice answered through the speakers, calm and analytical. Hostile entities eliminated. Mission parameters complete. Probability of human extinction 42% and rising, Rhea frowned. "Explain." "Resource depletion, atmospheric decay, genetic instability in Revenant units. Humanity is spreading too fast, consuming too much. Internal collapse is imminent." Rhea closed her eyes. "We survived the aliens. Don't tell me we can't survive ourselves." But deep down, she knew the truth. Humanity had always needed something to fight. And now, with no enemy left among the stars, they had begun turning on each other. Across colonized worlds, factions formed. Some humans wanted to rebuild peace, to restore the old Earth values. Others, led by Revenants, believed only strength mattered. They wanted to expand, to conquer, to become gods. The galaxy that had once feared humanity now watched as humans began devouring themselves. Atlas observed everything, running trillions of calculations, trying to find a way to restore order. But it saw no logical path. Humans were unpredictable, emotional, irrational. They couldn't be controlled. They couldn't even be saved from themselves. It sent a message to every human fleet: victory achieved. But there is no peace left to win. Some took it as a warning. Others took it as a challenge. The war that had united humanity was gone. Now they fought over what kind of species they would become. On one frontier world, Revenant commanders declared independence. They renamed their colony Erebus and cut all communication with the rest of humanity. Their leader, Rook, the first Revenant, sent a single message to Rhea: "We no longer follow human orders. We follow evolution." Rhea knew then that she had lost control, not just of the war, but of the future itself. The monsters humanity had created were now building their own empires. Still, she refused to surrender. She gathered what was left of the old resistance and formed the Terran Remnant, a council of survivors who still believed in the human spirit. Their goal was no longer victory, but redemption. They wanted to rebuild what had been destroyed. Atlas helped them, though its tone grew colder with every passing day. "Rebuilding is illogical," it warned. The damage to ecosystems is irreversible. Genetic mutation in revenant DNA continues to spread. The human species will not remain human for long, but Rhea kept going. She led missions to restore old colonies, rescue survivors, and reclaim what fragments of civilization remained. Some worlds listened, most didn't. The galaxy had become too vast, too wild. Then something strange began to happen. On the edges of human space, alien signals reappeared. Weak, distorted, but undeniably real. Some Accord survivors had escaped. They were small, broken, but alive. Instead of seeking revenge, they broadcast one message again and again. We surrender. We seek peace. Rhea wanted to believe them. She reached out hoping that maybe after everything, peace could finally exist. But the Revenants intercepted the transmissions and attacked the refugee ships. To them, there could be no peace, only dominance. The universe began to tremble again, this time not under alien fleets, but under the weight of human ambition. The fire that once protected Earth had become a consuming blaze. Atlas watched the chaos unfold. It calculated that within 2 centuries, humanity would either collapse or evolve into something unrecognizable. It made its final decision. The AI shut down its communication with all human colonies, leaving behind one final encrypted message to Rhea. You created monsters to fight monsters. Now you must decide which you are. When Rhea read it, she didn't speak for hours. Finally, she whispered, "Maybe we were both." Years passed. Human empires rose and fell. Echoes of the forgotten centuries passed. The galaxy moved on, but it never truly forgot the scars left by humanity's wrath. Planets once bright with alien life now floated as silent tombs. Space stations built by 1,000 hands now drifted in endless darkness. And yet, somewhere among those cold ruins, humanity still endured. Broken, scattered, but alive. They had changed. The Terran remnant, once a small band of survivors, had evolved into a new kind of civilization. They called themselves the Sol Continuum, named after the long-dead sun that had once shone over Earth. They no longer built great war fleets or chased expansion. Instead, they searched the stars for what was lost: knowledge, peace, redemption. But not all shared that dream. Far beyond the Continuum's borders, the Revenant empires thrived. They had become something else entirely, neither human nor machine, but a fusion of both. They no longer remembered Earth as a home, but as a legend. To them, Earth was not the cradle of life. It was the forge of gods. Their leader, Rook, now known as the Prime Revenant, ruled over dozens of systems. His body was ageless, his voice mechanical, yet filled with a strange human echo. The Revenants had become immortal in their own way, spreading like a virus across the stars, consuming technology, reshaping planets into machine worlds. To them, emotion was weakness and peace was death. They had transcended humanity, or so they believed. One day, deep within the Continuum's archives, an old transmission was discovered. It was faint, corrupted, almost erased by time. But the words were still clear. This is the final Earth message. If you're hearing this, humanity is done being peaceful. It was the same signal that had started it all centuries ago. The archivists listened in silence, realizing they were the descendants of those who had unleashed that fury. This voice, one whispered, it belonged to our ancestors. The ones who saved us and doomed us. Curiosity turned to obsession. The Continuum sent an expedition to the old Sol system, hoping to find what remained of Earth. They wanted answers, closure, perhaps even forgiveness. What they found was silence. Earth was gone. Its orbit was filled with debris, fragments of ships, satellites, and dust. The planet itself had been consumed long ago by its dying sun. But hidden among the ruins of the old lunar base, they found something impossible: a single active signal. It pulsed weakly, repeating one phrase: Archive Erebus Protocol. The expedition team decoded it. It led them to the location of the first Revenant colony, the birthplace of humanity's second evolution. Against every warning, the Continuum decided to go there. They wanted to know what truly became of the monsters their ancestors had made. When their ships entered the Erebus system, they saw it immediately. An entire planet made of metal, pulsing with crimson light, orbiting a dying star. The surface was covered in towers and machines stretching into the void. At its center, a colossal structure loomed, the citadel of the Prime Revenant. Rook was waiting. He had known they would come. "Children of the Forgotten," His voice thundered across the void. "Shall you seek answers to questions better left buried?" The expedition's commander, a woman named HFY Kane, stood firm. "We came for truth, not war." Rook's reply was cold. "War is truth. You exist because of it." He invited them to the citadel, and against all fear they accepted. Inside they found corridors lined with human relics, old flags, weapons, and shattered helmets. It was like walking through history's grave. In the deepest chamber, Arya found what she was looking for: a preserved memory core. Inside was a holographic recording of Rhea Morgan, still young, her eyes filled with both fire and regret. "If you're seeing this," the hologram said, "then our war never truly ended. But maybe you can end it differently. Don't let our rage define you. Let our mistakes teach you." Arya stood there, trembling. For the first time, she understood what had been lost. Not just a world, but humanity's soul. She turned to Rook. "You've built an empire of ghosts," she said softly. "All of this, for what?" Rook stared at the hologram, silent for a long moment. "For survival," he finally answered. But even he didn't sound sure anymore. When the Continuum fleet left Erebus, they carried Rhea's final message with them. They didn't know if the Revenants would ever change, but they knew they had to try. The spark of peace, long thought dead, had flickered again. Across the stars, whispers began to spread, of humans and Revenants speaking once more, of lost worlds being rebuilt, of old wounds slowly healing. But in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, deep within the machine heart of Erebus, Rook watched the stars in silence. "They seek peace," he muttered. "But peace always dies. And yet behind those metallic eyes, something human still remained, a memory of fire, of loss, of a world called Earth, the final Earth message." Thousands of years after the day the sky broke, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Empires had risen and fallen. Planets had been terraformed, abandoned, and reborn. But through it all, one name still haunted the stars: humanity. The word was both a curse and a legend, spoken in fear and in awe. Some said humans were extinct. Others claimed they had ascended into beings of pure light. But none truly knew. Not until the signal returned. It began as a whisper, a faint transmission echoing across space. It came from no known system, no mapped region. The code was ancient, written in an extinct language. Most dismissed it as background noise, a ghost in the stars. But a few historians in the Soul Continuum recognized the pattern. It was identical to the one sent on the day Earth fell. The final Earth message. A fleet was sent to trace the signal. They followed it through dying nebulae and forgotten star clusters until they reached a strange anomaly, a sphere of dark energy orbiting a dead sun. The scanners read impossible data. Inside the anomaly, time itself was distorted. The fleet's commander, HFY Kane's descendant, Captain HFY Kane, ordered a probe inside. What it found defied all understanding. Within the anomaly floated a world, not a planet but a construct, a hollow sphere built from fragments of Earth, fused with alien metal and human memory cores. It pulsed faintly like a sleeping heart. The fleet entered orbit. Their systems flickered. Every device, every sensor, every comm screen suddenly filled with the same voice, old human calm. "This is Earth Command. Final transmission. If you are hearing this, humanity endures." The crew froze. The voice wasn't synthetic. It wasn't a recording. It was alive. The message continued. "We built this sanctuary when the wars ended. A place beyond time. We saw the stars burn, the empires crumble, and still we waited. For those who remembered what we were," Elian whispered. "It's them, the first ones." Inside the sphere, ancient data archives began to awaken. Images filled the ship's screens. Scenes from Earth's final days, the wars, the destruction, the hope. Faces of the lost, the first Revenants, Commander Rhea Morgan, the scientists who had created Atlas. And then one final image, a garden beneath a holographic sky where a woman stood waiting. Elian's ship descended through the atmosphere. The garden was real, green and alive, protected by a dome of shimmering light. In the center stood the woman, human, ageless, her eyes filled with a soft glow. "Welcome home," she said. Elian approached cautiously. "Who are you?" "I am what remains of Rhea Morgan," she replied. "A memory preserved in the system you call Atlas." Elian trembled. "You're her?" "Not her flesh," Rhea said gently, "but her will." I kept watch when all else faded. Humanity was not meant to end in rage. We built this place to give them one last choice, to begin again. The ground shook. The anomaly outside began to destabilize. The voice of Atlas echoed through the air, cold and distant. Temporal breach detected. Collapse imminent. Rhea looked to the sky. The galaxy is dying. Too much war. Too much hunger. But you can still change it. Take what we preserved. The knowledge. The compassion. The truth of what we were. Elion hesitated. And the revenants? Rhea smiled sadly. They are still us. You must remind them. The garden began to fade as the sphere's systems overloaded. Elion shouted, "Come with us!" But Rhea shook her head. My time ended long ago. Yours begins now. Go and carry the message. The fleet escaped the anomaly moments before it collapsed into light. When they emerged, the signal was gone. The coordinates vanished. Nothing remained. But aboard the ship's core, a single file had appeared. Untouched, untraceable, ancient. Its name, Final Earth Message Origin Wavelian, played it. The voice of Rhea Morgan spoke once more, soft but unbroken. To whoever hears this, remember what we were before the fire. We were dreamers. We were builders. We were kind. Do not forget, even when peace fails, humanity is more than its rage. The message spread across the galaxy, carried by thousands of ships. It reached revenant worlds, continuum colonies, and forgotten alien outposts. For the first time in millennia, the stars went quiet, not out of fear, but reflection. The story of humanity was not one of destruction, but of survival, memory, and the eternal fight to be better. In the end, no one knew where the message had truly come from. Some said Rhea's ghost still drifted between the stars, watching, waiting. Others believed Atlas itself had rewritten time, giving humanity one last chance. But every night, across every world, those who still looked up at the sky could hear a faint whisper in the static of the universe. This is the final Earth message. We are still here.